Thursday edition of the Husker 24/7 Daily. I'm Michael Bruntz, Brian Christopherson. We are on entering day 3 of the transfer portal being open in basketball. And Brian, you've been writing, I think, some really good kind of primers on some guys and names to know as Nebraska gets into the visit portion of the transfer portal being open. Or at least what would we call this? Is this the first dates portion of the speed dating, the portal speed dating?
Yeah,
Or are
you're
we
just you're just texting right now.
okay?
A Zoom call is like kind of just texting, kind of getting to know you, see if you have the same taste in music, sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I hope that's what they're actually discussing on those Zoom calls. By the way, like Nebraska's sitting there like, what kind of hip hop do you like? What kind of music do you listen to during warm ups? Things like
And
that.
how expensive would dinner with you be?
Where would you like to go if we went to dinner? What would you order? Um, and would there be an appetizer? Stuff like that. But anyways, let's dig into a couple of these names. I think they're some have been linked to Nebraska publicly, others through your own reporting. But where do you want to go first? Who do you want to talk
Yeah.
about first?
Yeah, first off, Nebraska, for good reason. Like, it feels like every program's pretty quiet about, like, what they're not gonna just like, here it is, here's who we're bringing in, sort of deal. So it's not like that. But yeah, through the network and stuff, everyone will talk about our names that we know have, had conversations with Nebraska, and some feel like they're picking up steam from what we hear. We'll see. We'll see if the visits take place and where those go. But um, Sam Orm kind of sticks out to me. We could start with him, Bruns from Belmont. I wrote about him yesterday. And he's an interesting kid. He was at Belmont for 3 years. He actually had some injuries that first season. Had a surgery that forced a red shirt, but he's just steadily been getting better. And the commonality with all these guys, and he's a good example, is they can all shoot it pretty well, or at least present that threat. Like he averaged almost 13 per game last year, shot around 39% beyond the arc, and played the 4 spot for Belmont. That was a really good team that they had a bad conference tournament, but they were a 26 win squad. And he was one of the main reasons. He's from Indiana originally. I think his family grew up like Hoosiers fans. And so there was some of that talk when he first got in the portal. And then there's like, well, Kansas State, because Casey Alexander had coached him at Belmont, and now he's the Wildcats head coach. But last night, just from what we were heard, seems like Nebraska's gaining some steam there. So it's one to watch. So he's definitely someone that is of a high intrigue right now, I think.
Seems like he could be. I mean, he seems like he would fit exactly what Nebraska would be looking for in like a 4, like a guy that could spread the floor, really shoot it. Like you said, he was almost 40% from 3 last year. The numbers are trending up for him from his freshman to sophomore year. So, you know, and actually looking at his numbers, around 5 rebounds a game too, which you'll take that as well.
Yeah, for sure. He just has a good all around mix to his game that I think would fit well here. A lot of people are pretty interested in him. There's another common factor with a lot of these guys. Let me look on Orem to make sure I'm right on this, but they're pretty highly regarded by 24/7 Sports as far as portal transfers. Like, for instance, Sam Orem has a 91 player rating. He's a 4-star guy in the 24/7 portal rankings. That's pretty common with a lot of them, including Drew Fielder. We could work our way into him, the big out of Boise State. He's a guy that also can shoot it for a big man pretty well. Had a huge uptick last year at Boise. He started at Georgetown, and I thought his game really started to take off last season. He had a huge climb in his 3-point percentage. So that's obviously a big deal, where he could draw people away from the bucket, be a threat there. It'll be interesting how much of a facilitator he could be. And of course, Nebraska has to land him first and foremost. But you could see why the Huskers would be kicking the tires on him. And he's another guy, Brunson, who's a 4-star in our portal rankings, ranked 61st overall and 8th amongst centers. So these guys, maybe they're not like on like top 25 lists you're seeing pop up on social media this week, but they're pretty highly regarded, the group we're kind of talking about here.
2 others. Where do you want to go next? You stick with the bigs?
Yeah, well, we could talk about the point guard, Trevan Lenhard. I like his length. He's either 6'4" or 6'5", and he was at Utah Valley. You look at his base numbers, average 12 per game, about 5.4 rebounds, not bad for, if you're getting that from a point guard spot, and 6 assists. So he's a guy who it seems like Nebraska put it near the top of their list as far as a guy who could be a ball handler and trying to get him in here. And from what we've heard, it sounds promising as of us doing this podcast, like we're with how they're trending with them. Now we'll see where that goes. We'll see who actually gets in here for visits. Friday's the first day they can visit, and the Zoom stuff ends. Get to the next portion of the dating show.
Oh,
yeah, that'll be exciting. So I just like that. I think he could. How Sam Grissel, when he was here, had that length, and he could, on defense, you kind of have that guy who picks up the point and he kind of cuts off the head of the dragon a little bit. Like he's got those long arms, and it causes a lot of chaos. I could see, especially on that end of the court, a player like Lenhard being very effective in sort of the stuff Nate Lenzer wants to do with all his length.
Yeah, you need to add a little bit of that, like on the perimeter, just based on who Nebraska's losing.
Yeah, I mean, you had someone in Sam Hoyberg who was 6 feet. He made up for it just by his tenacity and just being way better than someone should be at that size, really, like just how he hustled and the stuff he got done with his hands and everything on defense. But yeah, I think it'd be a nice, as you kind of move on from that era and try to live life without Sam, which I don't think is going to be easy because I think he meant so much to this team. Those guys who have a few of the traits that are a little additional to what Sam brought, maybe that can help neutralize that loss of him.
And then last, a Lincoln native that's attracted a fair amount of attention in the portal already.
Yeah, that's what we've heard. Tayson Anderson was a Lincoln Pius, a 10th grad, all-stater when he was here. He was at North Dakota State the last 2 seasons. There's a lot to like about him because he's 6'9", but he's a big kid. He's like 245. He's sturdy. Like he could go to a power conference and he fits the look. He took a jump in his game last year at NDSU, which was a tournament team. He averaged 10.4 points, 5.3 rebounds. He was really good after he got inserted into the starting lineup, averaging 12.7 per game then. And, he has a clean stroke. Like when you watch his tapes, he's another guy who can shoot it well beyond the arc. All these guys are pretty effective there in stretching the floor, spacing the floor if you were to combine them together. And he looks really confident shooting it. So very interesting guy. Obviously the Lincoln connection is cool, and we've seen that work. We saw it work with Sam Grissel and Josiah Alec. The difference in this one would be he'd actually have a couple years to play as opposed to just the one where you could develop them. And I think that's a key with some of these guys, that there's multiple years for most of them to play. And I think that's something that for large part, you'd have to say Fred Hoyberg and staff have done pretty well, is sort of get those guys that maybe have at least a couple years with them, like Price Sanford is doing right now. And you don't have to just turn everything over just every every 12 months.
There's probably a lot of value in that. I mean, for a place like Nebraska, the offense is a little bit more, I don't know if challenging is the right word, but it's a little bit more involved defensively. Nate Linzer's system asks a lot of players on the floor. They do things a little bit differently, and I think that point's an interesting one to me because you want to get older. I think there's a lot of value in kind of having guys that have been in the program a couple of years that can kind of accept transfers and help them in the system and that kind of stuff. Because Nebraska, it's not they're not running stuff from Mars, but it is a little bit different than maybe what a lot of programs run defensively and offensively.
Yeah, it helps to have that background knowledge to push guys along in the summer, not only of what the offensive, defensive schemes are, and obviously they tweak stuff from year to year, but also just like this is the standard around here, and also for from cycle to cycle, the peer recruiting aspect. Like if Price Sanford had just been a 1-year guy and was a senior this past year, he could still talk to players that are, visiting or maybe going to visit about like, yeah, this is what it was like and stuff. But I think it has like a different impact when it's like, this is a guy you'd be playing with, like, and you hear from him about, just like the experience of you win here, it's something special. And those guys got to see that this past March, and whatever they can do to sort of pass on, like that's the new standard. We got here. This was the bar we cleared this season, and we want to go a step higher now. And so that's good that you aren't just starting over with like 10 new guys. And I think the fact that you have Price and it seems like Braden, like they're in good shape for them to come back, that's so huge. Like you go into this process, like you already know you got 2 really good scorers, and it's not like you're searching. You just have to like flat out search, right, Bruns, for that guy who's just like the guy who's going to get you necessarily 18 points per game. You're just like looking like, what are the supplementary parts that would make it all work together? We've already got guys that can put in the hole. How can we add to that? That's a big like a base foundation to have under your feet as they've gone into this cycle. I think it's been a lot better that way than it was a year ago.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, we'll see what Nebraska is able to do over the next couple of days here. Obviously, life in the portal moves quickly. Visits happen and don't happen, and
Yeah.
interest and quickly waxes and wanes. So, Brian will have all that coverage at Husker 24/7. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, that was a good way to put it, because obviously it's fluid with all the guys, and those are guys we know that there's been contact, and some of it feels like it's pretty strong right now, but we'll see who visits and where we take it from there. But I feel like as of this podcast, they're in good standing with 2 or 3 of those guys, so we'll see if they can finish it or how that works out.
All right, we'll see if Nebraska can seal the deal. Keep it locked on Husker 24/7 for all the latest as Nebraska goes through this latest basketball transfer portal cycle.